Should smile for the beginning. Hey everyone, my name's Adam, and hello to the roast community. This is my good friend Francis.
Hey everybody.
So Francis and I got together. We wanted to do a little run through and experiment on the roast machine, roast sample roaster, and specifically some Kenyan coffees. And so today we're going to share about that. We're going to share a little about ourselves and hope to get to know some of the community. So we'll connect by social. We'll talk through some of the coffees that we have. First off, we'll introduce kind of who we are. We've got 8 beautiful Kenyan coffees. They're natural processed,
Yes, they are.
which was just a thrill to roast, but also a little bit maybe nervous. And then I'll talk about some of my experimental design, how I approached the roast, and the profiles that I used. So hopefully other people in the community can benefit from using those profiles too. And then we've got to talk about the coffees we loved and why we loved them. Then maybe we'll close with some comments, make a joke here and there. We'll see, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So the goal will be to not talk too long, because when Francis and I get together, we can lose track of time,
Yeah,
right?
12 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been talking enough, and I want to let Francis have a little time here. So tell me about yourself. I'm going to act like this is an interview.
Yeah.
So who is Francis, and why are you doing coffee? We're in America. We're south of Portland. We're in Oregon, in the Pacific Northwest of America. And what's your story?
So, yes, Adam said, I'm in Portland, and that's far away from home. I was born and raised up in Kenya. Came here to the US to pursue an aviation dream. Then I caught the coffee bug, and there's no better place to get to know about coffee than the Northwest. So from there, I started thinking of how we can be able to create sustainable lives, especially for our farmers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started learning about specialty coffee, and ended up founding a company called Jamii Coffee, which is Jamii is a Swahili word for community. And what we wanted to do was just create that system where farmers can continue making a livelihood out of coffee. So we are not only importers. So importing is what we do as a business, but the passion behind what we do is to be able to create those livelihoods and make it possible for people to be able to live in coffee.
Right.
So agriculture, economics, and trade, that's what we do. And
Right.
That's who I am, yeah.
So Jamii, Jamii,
Yeah.
and he's got a beautiful slogan too.
Yes, and we say if we can't touch the farmer, we don't touch the coffee. And the reasoning behind that is if I cannot feel like I'm making a difference in the livelihoods of those farmers, then I don't want to do it. And the reason is I was raised up in a very small farming community in
Right.
Kenya. That's where I grew up. And knowing what people go through, and knowing that there are opportunities we can be able to improve lives through trade, that is why we felt that this is the path for us we want to follow.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was for everyone else's benefit, because I know Francis's story well. But every time we get together, I pick up another part of it. And really, that's what brought us together. So, I grew up on a farm, not a coffee farm. And there's not many coffee plants that grow in Michigan, in America. And but knowing that there are these farmers, incredibly hardworking around the world, that's what we're all about in the specialty coffee industry anyway. But it's still so far. And the concept of seed to cup is a beautiful concept. It's really hard to live in practice, and you all know that. So one of the ways, and really what drew me into making the decision to buy roast, was connected with this. Last summer, 2019, at the World of Coffee in Berlin, I came there with an Ethiopian group that was specifically trying to add value at origin. They were trying to export more directly, and anyone who's worked in Ethiopia knows that there's some real challenges to do that with the ECX, just legacy relationships and trade barriers. And that's true in Kenya in a different way. It's true in every nation when you're working at origin. So working with this crew, we thought, one of the things that we really want to do is we want to make sure that we are getting samples that are traceable, and we're roasting them, and we wanted to provide the best data, the best user experience for a roaster who's always overloaded with roast samples. How do you choose from all these samples when you're going to find time to roast them? Did you roast them just right, and then cup them and make a purchasing decision? So my business partner and I last summer, we checked out another sample roaster booth. I won't mention names. And we checked out Roast, and Trond and Sver and their family and their waffles were amazing. And the machine also won us over. It wasn't just the waffles, but that definitely helps. So we put in an order. I put in an order for my roast, and then our goal was to send one to Addis and have one in Ethiopia, where we were sharing profiles, and they were sending me green coffee, and we were doing this real time. So when Francis came along, and when I met him, it was last fall. I had already had my roast set up, and we started talking about when and how we could highlight and promote his coffees. So this experiment today, this is kind of part of that, and I was so excited because we've got Kenyan Naturals to work with. So these 8 coffees, I'm going to let you read off the list because my pronunciation of the names does not do justice.
That's true.
So we were looking at these natural coffees. We had a 120-gram sample of each. And so what do we have here?
So these coffees that we have on the table, we got they are from wet mills that are owned by Othaya Cooperative. And most of you, as you know, that in Kenya we don't produce naturals. It's because we are known for our clean coffees, and the natural has no classification in our coffee classification. So it's a project-based work. So if it's something that you want, it's something that we have to work towards that project. And these coffees are from Keruthi wet mill. There's Keroga, there's Gatuyaine, Ishamama, Kiaga, Shinga, Yeshishi, and Thuti.
Okay, now repeat those. Can you repeat those 8?
Yeah.
I'm like writing these down. How do I do Ishamama? That was my favorite. It was like Ishamama. I could just make a lot of coffee mama jokes out of that.
Yeah, it's true. We call it Ichamama, so kind of makes that level.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are mostly project coffees. They are produced in small quantities. We are still perfecting that system because most Kenyans don't do it. It's a risk because now you're telling somebody to give you their red cherry to produce a natural.
Right.
And most of the natural coffee in Kenya has a classification which is MH. We also call it Mbuni. And Mbuni is Swahili word for blue. And mostly it's mostly the end of harvest. Yeah, the end of harvest. That's the ones they took. So they take the underripes and the overripes. So
right.
So this natural
it's
is
normally
not,
an inferior coffee.
Yeah, it's mostly an inferior coffee. So
right.
now you're telling a farmer to take a bet.
Right.
They are beautiful coffees to be able to produce something, and if it goes wrong, it comes out inferior.
And I'm not sure how many nations that's true in, but I saw that in Ethiopia too. They were like, you want us to take our most beautiful, best picking and throw them out in the sun and, turn them natural? Because before that was a way to salvage, as you said, the last picking, salvage the overripe and the underripes and kind of blend them together. I remember some of my first training with SCAE before the merger, and a lot of the test questions are revolving around natural processed coffees. The answers were always inferior, musty, moldy, earth-like, mushroom. And all of these were descriptors of natural coffees that we were paying a premium for. Yeah. And we were not buying mushroom-flavored coffees. But, So yeah, these are really exciting coffees. And I want to talk about kind of how we went into knowing how to roast them. So here, Francis gets these beautiful samples, and he didn't necessarily know how to tell me what to roast on my roast machine. And nor did I know how to go about that. So what I did was took some of the great samples that have been developed for Kenyan coffees, and specifically for smaller volume coffees, and I kind of worked backwards. So I reverse engineered how I wanted to roast these naturals. So what I did on the design was, this is Saturday morning now that we're filming this. So Thursday, Friday, and then even this morning really early, I roasted washed Kenyan coffee. And I started with 50 gram samples because these naturals are only 120 grams. So I wanted a chance to at least roast them twice or enjoy them twice. So I cut them into 60 grams each for the natural. So beforehand, my experimentation, maybe I'll flip over to my screen here real quick, or my chart. What I wanted to do was figure out what was going to work for here. I'm just going to show you behind me here. So what was going to work on Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday morning here? What was going to work for a 50 gram sample? So I started with a couple power profiles. There was a 50 gram, and I think it was from Matt. Thanks, that was awesome. Jarno's the linear air temp. There was another power profile that I kind of modified, and then the roast Kenya. So I took a run through there on several coffees and found how they crashed and where they moved and where it was too hot and where they were moving too fast. So without going into too many details, that's always fun discussion later that we can discuss, put it on the roast forum. What I found was, I found three that I really liked. I liked the roast Kenya profile, go figure. That was a really consistent and just good way to roast Kenyan coffees. It didn't seem to matter if I put 50 grams in or 100 grams in. I was getting really good results. And I think that's because it was with an environmental temperature as a guide. So that environmental temperature is controlling my machine to follow a consistent environmental curve, which makes the power dance around. It makes the heat dance around, but it's just a little softer to the beans. That means the environmental is pulling the beans up to that temperature, right? Because the environmental temperature is typically, it's always going to be hotter than the bean probe. Whereas some of the fixed temperature profiles, I think they might have been developed for a little bit more than 50 grams that I was starting with here. And so they were just, the heat was turned on high to roast 100 grams of coffee, and I was only putting 50 in. Yeah. So found, some scorching, tipping, underdeveloped, and just kind of modified some of the variables. So I will be happy to share what worked, and I think I'm going to merge a couple of the best profiles to offer something that could be used for a Kenyan natural. It would probably migrate well to other high density natural coffees because these definitely did, bear all those characteristics of a fresh crop. I should also say, we named off our 8 names here. These are current crop, so they were harvested.
Oh, so they are the 2019, 2020.
2019, 2020.
Yeah, so they are the current coffee.
So it was like last
so they were harvested
November.
Yeah, harvested in November, December.
Right.
Yeah, and then now they're coming into the market.
Right. We all know how that works. We're often behind schedule.
Yeah.
But the coffees that I was experimenting on, they were a little bit older. They were last year's, so 2018-19 washed Kenyas. They've been kept great. They're in Grain Pro, and I was experimenting with 50 grams. So then I moved into 60 grams on this natural. Now, we loved a few of these coffees, and they really stood out. And we want to talk about which coffees we loved, and really kind of our first experience with Kenyan natural coffees.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that was kind of an eye-opener too. Like, you have some natural coffees from different areas, and you just get accustomed to that natural feeling, right? Mm-hmm. And Kenyan wash coffees are so unique. I really am excited if Kenyan natural coffees become more common in the marketplace.
Yes.
So how was your first expression or experience here, and what stood out to you?
So the first thing is with the roast profile, you could be able to realize and also notice that these are not your typical. These are not your typical naturals. It's something that stood out the first time I came in, and I even mentioned when I came in, I was like, "There's no natural smell here." if I had some washed coffees, I would confuse them, and that is where most of the people be able to pick up, and that is for us. That's something that that we have always been looking for, is to produce those coffees that if they're put together with the washed, you're like, well, where's that natural there?
Yeah, and it's not a bad smell, but it's just that funky ripe fruit. Sometimes we call it winey or ferment. So I roasted these coffees from 8 to 9 a.m. and then just let them set out, and we started grinding at 10:50. So I waited an hour and a half. Yeah, everyone had an hour and a half to 2 hours to sit and rest. And then we ground them and just let them sit out for 15, 20, 30 minutes before we put water on them. So they were just kind of airing, right? Degassing.
But the aroma was amazing.
The aroma was amazing.
Yeah, actually, we wouldn't have known the difference. There's no difference with the there's a little bit because there's a fruit, but
I couldn't tell it was Kenya.
Yeah, that's true.
It smelled like a farmer's market. It was like strawberries and blueberries. Oh man. Yeah. So just really, really sweet. That was the predominant sweet fruit.
Yes, that's true.
So no tomato.
No tomato.
There was not a tomato in the room.
No fermenty.
No ferment.
Yeah, no fermenty smells out there. Just sweet, fruity smell.
So what were some of the dry fragrances that you picked up? Because the dry fragrance was amazing on all of them as we spun around.
So for me, I kind of picked up, which is weird, dark honey.
Dark honey.
Yeah. And I just got some dark honey.
Okay.
In a town here, we have a lot of beekeepers as well. So I just got some dark honey, and I just used it last night, and today in the morning when we were doing the coffees, that's the aroma I was picking up. And then some floral as well, which I get with a lot of Kenyan wash.
Right.
And that surprised me with the naturals as well, because it's like, why am I getting this and this one is a natural one? So I love that.
Yeah, but it was like that dark honey floral.
Yes.
Not like a cute little flower.
No, not like a cute little flower, but more like a dark honey floral blooms, something like that.
Yeah, something really like a pungent fragrance, really deep flowers.
Yes.
Yeah. So what kind of fruit, if any? I mean, you had tea. Yeah, you had a bunch of things that if I was reading this list, I'd think it was a wash.
Yeah, that's true.
Honey and tea and floral.
Honey, tea. And one of the coffees, which actually was our favorite, I picked up passion fruit.
Passion fruit.
And I kept going back to it, and I was like, why am I getting a passion fruit out of this? And and that was something. And then I think at that moment you're like, strawberry. You are like, I'm getting strawberry there, but I was like, I'm getting passion fruit.
Yeah, well, that's because I grew up in Michigan. And you grew up in Kenya.
Yeah, so
we didn't grow passion fruit in Michigan.
Yeah.
So, I was getting every one of them. I had a different fruit. So it was like sweet raspberry cream, and then like this cherry, super strong sweet cherry, like a tart sweet cherry, rhubarb berry, blackberry with lemon, like this tangy. It was just tangy in my nose. And then the one kind of stood out. It was figgy and like a super ripe melon, like a really ripe red watermelon that's on a hot summer day. And then tropical fruits. So I got the passion fruit, tropical fruit, just, made me feel like I was in Kenya, I guess. Cranberry, rich kind of cranberry popped in. And then this like strawberry lemonade again, strawberry lemon. There was a lot of lemon on the table, surprisingly, for these natural Kenyans. So we went through, and the goal was to figure out which coffees stood out to us. Now the challenge is I kept rotating 3 roast profiles. I used the power profile that was adapted from Matt, and then I used there was a 50 gram profile, but it was an environmental temp. So I used a 50 gram power, a 50-gram environmental, and then I used the roast Kenya. And so with 8 coffees on the table, I just kind of rotated through these profiles. So it wasn't a scientific approach with one profile, but what we're drawing conclusions on afterward is whether or not that profile influenced the coffees that stood out on the table. So our 2 coffees that we agreed on were what?
So Duty was the first one, Duty. And that was, whoa, I must say, from the beginning, it just wowed me. And we also
What wowed you, or why did that one wow you?
Number one, from the get-go, the aromas was just out of this world.
Yeah.
I didn't even put, the funniest thing, I didn't even put what I
You didn't even put it
yeah,
down.
because of like, I don't even know, but I think it's something that's making me salivate. Just
That was
smelling
like
it.
my strawberry candy, like it was like a candy shop, strawberry lemonade.
Yes. Yeah, if you just walk in, you're just like overwhelmed with that.
And when I was roasting that tutti, I didn't stick my nose over the roaster on all of them, but when I was roasting that one, I was so excited because it smelled like strawberries. Like you normally go through this yellowing phase and it smells like corn and sweet corn and like this grain. It just smelled like strawberries.
Yeah.
It was so much fun to roast.
Yeah. So yeah, and then
So tutti was an agreed.
yeah, so we agreed on our one, and then there is the Kiaga. I think we agreed on Kiaga.
Kiaga,
Yeah,
number
that's
5.
the other one. Yeah, that's the other one we agreed upon. That one was the one I was getting some black teas. Like I love dark roasted Irish tea, so that's one of the things I love, and I was able to pick up here. And that's why I was like putting it on black tea.
Irish tea,
Yeah,
nice.
so that's my flavors. And that's why it caught me. I really did like that. And then also it smelled like in Kenya we have a lot of coffee, tea drinkers. So smelling that was the first thing I was smelling aromas of tea in there. The third one that we also
Well, so let me talk about the Kiaga. When I walked around, that was the only one on the table that I thought it slightly had that overripe natural smell to it. That was the one that I put fig and like overripe watermelon, not overripe, but super ripe. But then as I drank it, it was like bright and clean, and it finished like this cranberry jello. I don't know, it was something like a Thanksgiving dessert or a Christmas dessert, and it was just sweet and sour, and that Kiaga was awesome. So I want to say the tutti that we spoke about in the beginning here, that was the 50-gram power profile. So that was a power profile. And then the Kiaga, that was on the roast Kenya profile. So different coffees, maybe they would have done just as well on the same profile. That's going to be experiment round 2, but what about number 3 for you? You had one that he had one that he loved that I didn't choose as my love, and I had one. So, so here's our point of contention.
Yeah, so my number 3 was Kiruga, and Kiruga for me, I've known this wet milk for a while because we work Jamii Coffee. We work closely with Othaya. And it has been on top of my list. I think we bought some peaberry a washed peaberry from them last time, and we still love it. And I love this coffee. I got some fruity, a lot of it, but what got me mostly, it had some watermelon, a very fruity watermelon, floral honey when it was dry. So that was my third favorite. Yeah, and for you,
that was which one? Number?
Kiruga number 2.
Kiruga number 2.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and that was roasted on the roast Kenya profile. I liked that one. I actually ranked that one really high, but I chose the Ichimama because Ichimama. And
just because of the mama jokes.
No one's ever told me I'm hilarious. My wife thought I was hilarious when we were dating. That was a fun time. So no, but that one had like that blackberry, lemon, super tangy fragrances that were just jumping off at me. And then, but that one was also the darkest roasted on the table. It was the 50-gram environmental temp. Again, that it didn't seem to necessarily do anything. But I noticed that it was the largest bean. It was like an AA, super big bean, and it also had more weight loss. So I checked the weight loss on all of them. We started at 60 grams, and they came in at 52, 2, 52, 7, 52, 7, 53, 1, 52, 6. But this was a 51, 8. And so it was darker roasted. And it just had this long, lingering, like cherry cordial syrup aftertaste. Those old coffee wheels with the purple area, the dry distillation, I actually really like a lot of that. I love spices and winter spices. So don't be fooled by this light skin. I like a really dark roast coffee. And I'm not gonna say
no. I like, for me, I like the light roast, and that's why we had a ball of contention we had, because I am more of a
I was like, Francis,
guy.
no, Francis, that's a good coffee. It's like,
Yeah.
no, something's wrong with that. It's burnt.
Yeah, it kind of tasted burnt for me. That's the dark roast of it. I'm used to the light roast. I'm used to Kenyans having the light
Sometimes
roast.
coffee just needs to taste like coffee.
Yeah.
Hashtag dark roast aren't evil.
Yeah.
So actually, I want to go over to the table and I'll give a quick preview there. And I want to take one of those coffees for myself to sip on. And it's always important. I think it's really important to see how the coffee cools, right? It's important to see how the coffee cools. Francis, my camera won't turn around. So I just have to like look over my shoulder here. There we go. There we go. Look over my shoulder here. So we had a nice little lineup there, and I drank the cup on the left, and Francis drank the cup on the right, and we both had our own individual rinsing. What are you trying to do? You want to grab that? I got it. So we had our own rinsing. So we broke the 6-foot protocol for safety with COVID. But we did not share coffees, we did not share spoons, and we had separate. So just in case you're worried there, we did practice protocol safety. So let me come over to the 5. Here we go, number 5. Let me see how this goes. You can take your favorite coffee. Oh, that's good. This is still good. That's not dark roasted. If it was dark roasted, it would have become strange. So what are you getting there?
Yeah, so this is the Tutti.
Yeah.
I tell you, amazing coffee. Loved it.
It's been sitting around for an hour.
It's cool, but you can still enjoy it. I still enjoy this coffee. Most of the time I'll throw out these coffees, but yeah. And the coffee on the right was mine, so that's how we did it. So we just said left, and then we would start on the other side. So when somebody finishes on one side, and then we just go around to make sure that we have that separation.
You're saying this just in case your wife watches the video and she knows that.
Oh yeah,
she can believe that you were saying.
She can believe what I'm saying. But this is an amazing coffee. It has cooled down.
So how does it now?
Love it. I'll still drink it.
Super clean, but it's not tart. It doesn't have that striking, hard to drink acidity. Like when I was drinking my dark roast over there, I was thinking, this is a Kenyan coffee people could put milk in.
Yes.
And so, I mean, that's always a challenge. And espresso, we were talking about how hard it is to find a decent Kenyan espresso. Like natural Kenyan coffees in an espresso could be fantastic.
Yes. And that's why, if I may just point out here about the roast and what we are doing here, is to be able to also find out between Adam and I, when I bring in some coffees as an importer, or when I'm working projects with my team in Kenya, we are looking for a roast profile for a Kenyan.
Right.
And be able to figure out what is this that can be able to help us. And I think that is where the roast really comes in, very helpful, because we are able to create a roast profile that we can migrate to a big batch roast, or we can be able to share with other roasters on that perspective. So I can feel it kind of empowers me to even be more adventurous with coffee, if I may say that, because we can all be able to play around with it.
So to that point, And for the profiles that I really liked, I'm gonna take this one. I'm gonna take each and mama. So that 30 is good. It's like juicy, yummy. I've got my high tech clip on my phone to hold it. So one of the interesting things here, I was going to show my profiles. Maybe I'll drop them in somewhere. One of the interesting things on these profiles, Francis, that we were just mentioning, I'm going to pull this up. So if anyone wants to see these, if you're following Roast, or if you have a Roast, you can check this out. If not, I'll be happy to show you more. Right here, check out the fan. And so this is the Roast Kenya profile. And really the power was consistent. It was always right around that 50, 55 mark. It was always up and down. But here, this green line is the fan, and it just increases step up, step up, step up, step up, step up, step up, step up. So by the time you get to 3 minutes, then you're running at a full fan speed. But the power really hasn't changed, and the environmental temp is really coasting slowly. And I think that's really a key on these Kenyan coffees. And like Monday, I'm gonna head back to work, and I would like to see on our San Franciscan roaster how if we just keep on working that fan speed up, keeping the power steady, like see how that migrates to these Kenyan, Guatemalan, Colombian, Ethiopian coffees that love to crash, right? And we're constantly trying to work between the variables of heat and fan and how to keep these coffees from crashing. So at an experimental level with all the full data feed, you can help your buyers, you can help your people experience like the full beauty of a Kenyan coffee.
Yes, exactly.
And that's really the goal. That's like where we're, meeting together. He wants to see people's livelihoods and the farms impacted. And in order to do that, like we need to be paying a fair price for the coffee. Well, in order to pay a fair price for the coffee, we also got to be making a lot of money when we sell the coffee. Like that's just the reality.
Yeah, that's just the reality. And what we are looking for is like, for me, when we import these coffees, and this is something that I've always thought about, is working directly with the farmers. Like right now, we are working with a single farmer with his own farms. What we are trying to figure out is how do we make sure that coffee, when we present it to our buyers, it also caps well. Because and that's what I think is like, if that coffee, I might give the coffee to a buyer, and then that buyer says that coffee wasn't great. But probably I capped it. It was amazing. I capped it to other people. They loved it. They thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
But to a certain person, they say that it's not. So it's mostly like a roast profile.
Yeah.
So developing that roast profile is very critical in also being able to sell coffee. So I feel that as an importer, I feel like having supply that information and sharing that information with our buyers, that's really good, so that they can be able to bring out the best of those coffees. And that's how I feel with the roast.
Like when we're as a coffee roaster and seller, because that's always been my primary position. Like I've always stood at the roaster and cupping table forward. Until last year and working in Ethiopia at Origin, I didn't have the chance to be at like the farm to cupping table, farm to mill to table, right? So when I have this amazing coffee that I've dialed in the lab and I've dialed in on the roaster, and then I sell it to a customer and they have a mediocre experience, I'm like, it's because your water temperature or your grind was screwed up. Like you didn't brew the coffee right. Even baristas, like you sell it to a cafe and the barista screws it up, or they just don't know.
Yeah, there's a
it's not a bad intention, but here you have this beautiful coffee, and today how amazing that coffee is. So what if you send it to someone and they're like, yeah, it was flat, yeah, it was boring.
Yes.
And you have that memory in your taste. No, it's not. Right?
Yeah, and then the other thing
how can you communicate that and get that out so that people want to buy your coffee? They're not questioning its value because they didn't have time to roast it, or they cupped it poorly, or who knows. So anyway, I think I was just trying to tie back to your roast comment, why all of this feedback is so helpful. So valuable.
Yeah.
We just got to use it the right way.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a lot of tools, as you said, where I do an amazing job. I do everything that we are supposed to do.
I do an amazing job.
Yeah, like, or maybe let's say the farmer does an amazing job.
Yeah.
And then they do, and then for us part, we always say we are the quality management and maintenance guys. So before it gets to the roaster, it's the farmer does an amazing job. As an importer, I also do an amazing job. Thank you very much.
You preserve it.
I preserve it.
We
so that
preserve
quality,
the work of the farmers.
Yeah.
That's what we're always trying to do.
yeah, that's what we're always trying to do. And these stages, if they're not managed very well, then at the end of the day, the ball is dropped.
Yeah.
But where is the ball dropped? It can be dropped. The farmer can do an amazing job.
We
An
all
importer
know this.
can do an amazing job. And then it comes to the roaster.
Don't look at me.
They drop the ball because I'm looking at you because that's where you belong. But
That's why I also run roasting training classes, SCA training classes. That's why I'm trying to do training. No one wants to get certified.
but if it drops there, then the ball, it rolls. Or as you say, you do an amazing job as a roaster,
Right.
and then the barista
Yeah.
doesn't do an amazing job. They do
So
there are so many places that this ball can be dropped.
Right. So without complaining about it and leaving us hopeless, that's why we've come together here.
Yes, exactly.
Because you've actually tied together and brought together a lot of people at the farm, mill, importing level.
Mm-hmm.
And by us coming together, we're trying to bring together that sample. There's just this kind of the fear of the unknown.
Yes.
When you get a coffee sample, when you're trying to purchase your next sample, when you're asking, will my customers love this? When you're asking, will I make money on this as a roaster, as a buyer, right? Mm-hmm. And so by bringing that just a little bit closer through our working together, through our knowledge, that's the goal, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So me personally, if I had a channel to sell these coffees, I would buy these coffees. Like, hands down, I would buy these coffees. If I was a barista competitor, Matt and others who are watching, like if you need a coffee, unbelievable coffees here. Yeah. And I mean, it's so early and exciting for Kenyan Naturals. Yes. Side note, from my time in China, I love what they're doing with Chinese Naturals.
Okay.
I think they overcome so many of the problems with Chinese wash coffees that we can have or that have been historically experienced. Not all Chinese coffees have wash problems, but the natural does something so different. Mm-hmm. And in China's case, for me, taking sometimes that phenol, that sharp harshness, astringency that was common in a washed Chinese coffee, it just made it fruity, and it transformed, at a chemical level. Yeah. Here, I never had any problem with a washed Kenyan, except that some mornings I don't want to be punched in the face with a Kenyan coffee. I want something a little softer to start my morning. But for these, I've seen that same unbelievable transformation. Yes. Just like the tomato and the grapefruit and the huge body, huge citrus that normally punches me in the face has just turned into this fruit basket. Yes. And wonderfully clean, no ferment, like you said. Yes. Just like the super fruit basket. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited. I'm gonna try to get these out on the market. And kind of in closing, so we need to wrap this up. Wanted to talk about some of the things we're really excited about. And so maybe ways to connect. I mentioned that I was in China, so I was actually intentionally off of Facebook and Instagram and living behind a firewall. I was in Wuhan, China, of all places. No one knew about it until coronavirus broke out in Wuhan. But all my friends are safe. Praise the Lord. Good. Yes, it's good. And we got out long before, so don't worry. I'm 2.5 years clean from Wuhan. Yeah. But why did I even mention China?
I don't know.
Where was I going with that? This is the problem with shooting live.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to
your story about your journey in coffee.
I didn't even want to tell them about my journey in coffee.
Yeah.
I wanted to let you say, I was off the social media radar.
Yes.
That's what it was.
Yes.
And so I'm just kind of really getting back on, and you can connect with me. You can connect with Francis, and we can explore what's going on. I'll be his social media point of contact because he's also not huge on social media, but pass his email. And if you want to get in touch, Jamii Coffees, Europe, America, it doesn't matter. These coffees are traveling the world. So just in a way to connect.
Yes.
And then kind of the hope or where we're going. So how would you hope to connect? What are you excited about that's growing and developing? I mean, these are hard times. We all talk about COVID and challenges. I mean, we all have challenges that are not unknown. But what are you hopeful for, and what opportunity do you see right now as you're moving forward? And you're building Jamii Coffee. You're building new relationships all the time.
Yeah, so for us, and I say us when I talk about that, is because we are a team of 5 Kenyans, and if you go to jamiicoffee.com, you can be able to see our history there, and we are just young people. We all.
You're so young.
Yeah, I'm so young,
so handsome,
but older than him. But yeah, we are all young people, and what we wanted to do is find a way forward for Kenya, for Kenyan coffee, for us to be able not only to educate the farmer, but also to help the farmer in agricultural economics, to make this coffee as a business on the farm level. So I'm really hopeful on the direction we are taking. I foresee a lot of changes coming. I foresee that the way we trade coffee in Kenya is gonna start changing. We are this generation that's coming up because everybody is older. So looking at that and knowing that our capabilities as this group, we can also be able to do a vertically integrated system,
right?
Because we are also exporting. So in Kenya, we export directly through the company that we built with the team in Kenya called Crowd Farm Africa. So we can be able to build these out.
Right.
So we can be able to reach out to different people. We are looking for partners as well to be able to help us come up with these amazing projects like the coffees that we have here on the table. I think you mentioned if somebody wants to do, let's say, like a championship coffee, we can be able to work together and be able to do that. And we have the social capital, and we do have the farmers who are willing to do that. And for us, that's very, very hopeful. And I think the future looks great. As it transitions from old to new.
Right. That's a lot of big steps, and there are awesome changes that are happening in Kenya. I see that in more than just the coffee sector.
Yes.
But just like a next step. So that was like beautiful 10, 20 steps down the road. But what's the next step that could happen in a couple weeks or a month?
So,
like a next good step forward. I always need to bring this plane down closer to the ground.
So the other thing for us right now, we are harvesting.
Well, you were telling me earlier, and maybe this isn't your next step, but it's really hard to contract coffee right now. Like you are really concerned. The wet mills are really concerned because there's just so much uncertainty in the market.
Yes,
right?
There's so much uncertainty in the market. Yeah.
So is that anything like in the next month or two that could kind of be resolved, or would there be a good thing that would give you and the farmers like a good something to hope for, something that needs to happen in the next couple months?
So I think in these uncertain times, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to predict because we are waiting for the government.
Right.
And the government has the tools and the trade to what they want to do.
Yeah. So
I kind of feel right now mostly support for the farmers if you can be able to get some coffees from Kenya, that'll be an amazing step.
And here we are in May, so we've already harvested.
Yeah, the coffee is already harvested. We are talking
There's
about
coffees at the mill. There's coffees.
Yeah, the coffees are
ready
already in the water. Yeah, ready for export. That's where the coffees are. So, and yeah. So and then the next season is already harvesting. So that's a funny thing. It's Kenya has two main seasons.
Right.
So the other season is already harvesting, and that coffee is gonna come out coming to the market from September, October.
Okay.
Yeah, so knowing that, and that's from the eastern side of the mountain. So we already, actually at this moment right now, we are already working with a farmer, implementing some of the projects that we have always wanted to see for the future.
Yeah.
This moment has allowed us to slow down a little bit and be able to start implementing those projects. So if somebody would like a natural coffee produced right now, this will be a moment.
This is actually a good
Yeah, this is the moment because the coffee is getting
Right.
out of the farm right now.
Right. So for those of us who are buying, that's also another benefit of Kenya is that we've got two buying opportunities, two processing opportunities,
Yes.
right? And so a lot of countries will harvest once a year, and so you kind of have to make a big decision. You have to bet 12 months out, 18 months out. So that's really good, and we'll talk more. We can always be reached. I want to wrap this up, and I'm super excited to still have the chance to get to Warsaw. I was really looking forward to Expo here in Portland. It was in our backyard.
I know.
I only had to drive 45 minutes to the Expo Center.
Yeah, we got a cast COVID.
Oh man. And so I was so looking forward to being with the roast team, and we were going to do a demo on how some of the roast machine functionality can lend itself toward SCA training. So much of the training has always been built around, and the knowledge and the materials have been built around big production drum roasters or even small drum sample roasters. And so I've continued to try to reverse engineer how to just build in the SCA training and sensory development out of this machine, which I'm really excited about. And I hope that we can have a second chance at World of Coffee in Warsaw or whenever it comes together. Connecting more in Europe and with that side, I don't know why, but this farm boy from Michigan, I just got to have my international community. I didn't even watch the Super Bowl, but I watched all the rugby playoffs, and so I'm really looking forward to building these relationships and getting in touch more, working in the forum however I can, just to help keep turning the knob on our learning and the growth of this industry. And I really want to meet some more farmers, or rather, people who are standing in the gap for our farmers, like Francis. And so helping them just get a little closer to market, get 1 or 2 steps closer to helping people make awesome green buying decisions, helping people lock in their roast profiles and bring an unbelievable wow coffee to the market. It doesn't mean you have to, you don't have to buy the most expensive anaerobic processed geisha out there. You don't have to spend $20 a pound to make people say wow. She's Your Mama is a wow coffee. It's Your Mama is a wow coffee. I mean, Kiaga and Gatuyani and Kiruga and all of these are wow coffees, and they're not going to cost me $20. So, just super excited to keep on building, keep on promoting. I'm all about business development, entrepreneurship, coming to market, very much of marketing. Just in the same way that you are about the farmer. If you can't touch the farmer, you don't touch the coffee. You're bringing farmers, you're bringing livelihoods up. And so we're just really excited to share. Thanks. And we're going to close this out. You can get in touch wherever the contact information is. And maybe we'll do a round 2. We'll see. You guys all want to talk to Francis again. Peace.
All right, see ya.